What's up, everybody, and welcome back. Today is Swift Sunday, and if you are new to the channel, I do a Taylor Swift reaction every Sunday, and if you want to see them earlier, go over to my Patreon account, link in the description below, and check them out early, plus a bunch of other content for Taylor Swift over there as well. But this is Taylor Swift, the stories behind her biggest songs. I got a lot of comments to check out this interview. It is amazing as far as I've heard, but what Taylor Swift interview is not amazing? Really, I love watching Taylor Swift, just talk about her songs, talk about, where she comes up with stuff, how she writes. I love watching her actually go through the process of writing a song and, making it come to reality. It's just crazy. If you guys haven't seen her do that, it's so amazing. You're like, how does her mind work like that? But it's really cool. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'm going to hop into this.
It's still such a mystery to me, even though I've been writing songs for so long. And I've started songs and finished songs so many different ways. They've gone through so many journeys. They've happened quickly. They've happened over time. They've been inspired by my life, by mythology, by fables, by books, by movies, by characters, by warnings, lessons. And they never quite happen exactly the same way, and I still don't quite understand how it works. I have this very strong opinion that when you're young, you feel things on such a intense and detailed level. There's an attention to detail when you are like 17 to 22 years old and you're longing, or you're reaching and grasping but never holding someone's attention or someone's love or someone's dedication, and you can't understand why. You spend all day thinking about it. You notice everything. You notice candle ash on the cuff of the shirt and the button, and it's everything that makes the mythology of those intense feelings that you have. And I've always tried to, without being a completely unhinged adult, keep that level of detail and intensity when it comes to trying to describe a feeling.
Oh, she does. It is amazing what she does.
I started writing songs when I was 12. As soon as my love for singing and picking up an instrument happened, songwriting just spontaneously started becoming the entire cornerstone of my life. I think the first songs that I fell in love with was the type of songwriting that I think folk and country is really kind of known for. It's like that story time structure. Songs like Harper Valley PTA or Goodbye Earl by the Dixie Chicks, or any amazing Kenny Chesney song where a hypothetical structure would be, first verse, little girl, learns a lesson that in the chorus her mom teaches her about. Then the little girl grows up and now she's a teenager and she realizes, oh my God, my mom was right about this. Now the second time you hear the hook, that same hook means something a little bit different because she's grown up in her life. Then the bridge, maybe she goes on in her life. She has a little girl. She imparts that wisdom onto her. And then if you really want to get me to cry, bring back that same first line of the song and end the song with it. So that was the first thing that made me think it's got to be country music. That was the first type that I really fell in love with. But then lyricism, I was the most intensely impacted by emo music, right? Dashboard Confessional, Chris Carrabba, Fall Out Boy, Pete Wentz's lyrics, how they take a common phrase and then they just twist the knife of it, right? I'm just a notch in your bedpost, but you're just a line in a song. Drop a heart, break a name, right? It's drop a name, break a heart. But they switched it, and those are the kind of lyrics where I would read the lyrics to those songs, or the specificity of Hands Down by Dashboard Confessional, where I'd be reading those lyrics and I'd just finish reading a line and just go, oh my God. I got a publishing deal when I was 14. I was signed by a guy named Arthur Buenahora at Sony, and he just believed that I had a perspective that mattered. And I actually asked him if he could please hold my songs from being pitched to other artists. I was like, just give me some time to try to get a record deal. I'm gonna try so hard. I could almost compare it to the Brill Building. They have these offices on Music Row, or at least they had a lot of them then, that were
I'll be honest, if you guys haven't heard, her story of going through Nashville and going through offices and stuff like that, it is amazing. It really is. It shows such determination at a young age. It is unbelievable.
try so hard. I could almost compare it to the Brill Building. They have these offices on Music Row, or at least they had a lot of them then, that were like these small houses, these like cottages and bungalows. Now we have really tall buildings. Basically, you'd go there and there'd be 3 songwriters writing in this room, 3 songwriters in this room, 4 in this room, 2 in this room. And I would just go to school. Then my mom would drive me downtown 30 minutes, and I would go and I'd have a songwriting session with someone that I'd never met before, but I really didn't want to come in unprepared, so I'd walk in with 4 to 5 nearly finished things, 2 half-finished things, 10 hooks, because I just never wanted people to be like, yeah, there's this like little kid that thinks she can swan her way into Music Row and just like write songs with these hit songwriters. But I think one of my favorite things about the Nashville music scene, country music and the storytelling where it was when I arrived there, there was almost this tradition of sort of breaking the fourth wall, making the song then a part of the song, or the writing of the song becomes a part of the song. And I did that in a song called Tim McGraw, where, you know, I'm singing about this kind of love lost and hoping that person thinks of me, and then in the bridge it's revealed that I wrote this song and I hope he hears it. The song Our Song, which I still love so much, it's all about this romance and this relationship, and then in the end it says, I grabbed a pen and an old napkin and I wrote down our song. So I loved doing that. I still kind of love doing that. The kind of just like, and it was me. Like,
I grabbed a pen and an old napkin and I wrote down our song.
my favorite end plot twist, I think, that I've done in songwriting is the ending of The Last Great American Dynasty. That's my favorite one. It is just so much fun to tell this story about this real woman who lived in history, and she defied the social norms, and she drove people crazy, and she had a marvelous time ruining everything. And you talk about the house she lived in on the coast, and basically then in the end, you're like, you know, she moved away from Holiday House. It sat quietly on that beach, free of women with madness, their men and bad habits, and then it was bought by me. And you're like, every time I get to that part when I would sing it on tour, I just like have to kind of like I wanted my grin to go from here to here, but that looks crazy. So it's like I had to like taper down my own excitement that hook happened.
Then it was bought by me.
I learned you can't ever really tell if other people are gonna like it, but oftentimes when I love it to a certain degree, that kind of tends to match up with people. And it could be that it doesn't match up with the way people feel till six years later. I loved the Reputation album. I was like, you guys say what you want. I know what I did.
It was amazing.
I love it. Like, go with God, sorry. Like, you can come around if you want. It's okay if you don't. And then, you know, 6 or 7 years later, people are like, oh my God, like, ready for it. Like, people slept on that song.
Are you ready for it?
I'll be honest, did people really sleep on that song? Because that song was amazing. You know, like I said, back in 2017, you know, I would hear Taylor Swift songs, but I wasn't really super like into Taylor Swift. But I remember this song. This song was like on the radio all the time. It was friggin' hardcore. It really was. Anybody who slept on this song was not listening, really not listening.
You know, 6 or 7 years later, people are like, oh my God, like, ready for it. Like, people slept on that song.
Are you ready for it?
The video's amazing.
When we were making that song, I just remember like I wanted to like headbang myself through a wall. I felt that when we wrote Ready for It. I felt that way during writing Getaway Car. I felt that way. I think the first time I felt like I don't care if people hate this because I love it so much was when I wrote the song Love Story, when I was 17, sitting in my bedroom, mad at my parents because they wouldn't let me go on a date with a guy who was too old, so I shouldn't have been on a date with him anyway, and this is why.
Thank you, Taylor Swift's parents. You guys did an awesome thing right there by not letting her go, and she wrote such an amazing song.
Sitting in my bedroom, mad at my parents because they wouldn't let me go on a date with a guy who was too old, so I shouldn't have been on a date with him anyway. And this is why you need to discipline your kids, because they might write songs that go number one.
Marry me, Juliet, you never have to be alone.
When I wrote Speak Now, I was 18 and 19, and I was coming from this big, massive moment that I had with an album called Fearless, and it had won Album of the Year at the Grammys, and it was this big, it was the first time there was like this big debate over whether I deserved to be there. There are always gonna be like little debates, do you know what I mean? But this was like headline news. I was like, these discussions can lead to a really bad place if I don't do something to counteract them and to prove that, no, it wasn't my co-writers that did all this work. And yes, I am the author of this entire body of work that I was very proud of. I'd written.
There's not one spot in Taylor Swift's career, as far as I'm concerned, that she's in a spot that she doesn't deserve to be at. Every place she has been, every award ceremony, every award show, every place that she has gotten, she's gotten herself there by her determination and hard work. Yes, is there people that, you know, assistants and stuff like that, for sure, but it's driven by her. Her success is driven by her 100%.
My co-writers that did all this work. And yes, I am the author of this entire body of work that I was very proud of. I'd written so many songs alone, and I love collaboration. I love co-writers, but it's not something that I needed. It's when I started to trust myself as an editor, because a lot of what I'll do in a session, even now, and one of the reasons why Liz Rose and Jack Antonoff became like people that I loved to write with for albums and albums, is because I'll have this stream of consciousness pouring out, and Liz would sit there with a notepad. But when you take that away, I just started, you know, recording everything, right? Recording everything on a voice memo, because there will be times when I'm like kind of in a zone and I'm writing so fast that there's no chance I'm gonna remember what that melody was that I did, you know, 2 minutes ago that I thought was cool for the verse. That was a really important album for me in terms of, in terms of becoming a writer that knew I could trust my own intuition. I have little phonetic things. I love alliterations. I love, you know, two words that start with the same letter. Love that. I don't like to have a word end with the same letter that the next word starts with. For example, in the song, Our Song, it was supposed to be when you're on the phone and you talk real low. But I was like, I don't like the real low. So it's turned into when you talk real slow. Certain words just like fly for me.
That's crazy.
And I think one of the reasons I like to take either age-old cautionary sort of phrases or things that you've heard in books, films, kind of these classic lines, and then repurposing them, inverting them, or like redefining them in some way, is because I sort of love the combination of modern vernacular and sort of old world or classic timeless speak. So in the song The Fate of Ophelia, there's a lot of sort of modern terminology and speak and kind of common phrases from the way that we talk now. But there's also, like in the bridge, there's a line from Hamlet that I repurposed.
Locked inside my memory, and only you possess.
That was an awesome video.
I really gravitate towards juxtaposition and polarity in a line, right? So, hey, what could you possibly get for the girl who has everything and nothing all at once? Our coming of age has come and gone. You take one word that's at the beginning of the phrase and then you take its opposite, because ultimately, like, we are all filled with polarity, hypocrisy, these kind of battling features and factors that make up our jagged personalities. I have my phone and I have...
You know, that's the other thing I like watching Taylor Swift interviews for, is because her word use. You know, she uses so many words. She uses so many words that a lot of people will never use. She uses a lot of words sometimes that I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And I'll have to go back and look it up. She is a dictionary of, you know, just everything. She really is. She has words from everywhere. She's a dictionary, a thesaurus. I mean, she has a lot of knowledge. She's an encyclopedia. You know, she's very, very smart. She's not only an amazing artist, but she's also a genius. She really is in many ways. Genius as in smart-wise, genius as in songwriting, genius as in creativity. That's the really cool thing. I love watching her do interviews because you actually see the genius. You know, it's not just a show. You actually get to see how smart and how genius she is and how creative she is and the process. It's amazing.
This file where I'll just be like, I know I like that, or I know I like that word, or I know I like that question. And then when I'll go into a session, I don't have social media on my phone. Like, it looks like I'm just endlessly scrolling, but I'm scrolling through the words in my file. If we're in the middle of writing a song, I'm searching for a perfect line that I thought of 4 years ago at 3 a.m. I think the importance for me of a bridge, it just feels like we're painting a picture, we're setting a scene. We have this opportunity as a songwriter to tell an entire story, an entire movie, or a very detailed description of one scene in a movie, or a very nuanced dynamic between people, or a complicated emotion. And we have only so long to do this, you know? I've written some really long songs in my life, but for the most part, they're between 3.5 and 4 minutes. You can start like painting the picture in the verse. You can get to the heart of it at the chorus, but then the bridge can be where you zoom back, you walk 20 feet back, and you see what this entire painting was supposed to be. Like, you've seen brushstrokes, you've seen the color tones, but the bridge can be when you step back and you feel everything that piece of art was supposed to make you feel. That's just how I feel about bridges. I came up.
And I'll tell you what, I think she is maybe the best at doing that because you feel every song she sings. You don't understand like everything that's going on, but you understand the story. You know, you definitely get the story by when she, you know, explains it with the video. It is crazy. And you can listen to the song and you can feel the emotion. So that's how I interpret, you know, being able to understand her song is when I can feel the emotion. You know, and maybe it's not the exact same emotion she felt or the same emotion somebody else felt, but if somebody can write a song and make you feel an emotion, that's a good song as far as I'm concerned.
But the bridge can be when you step back and you feel everything that piece of art was supposed to make you feel. That's just how I feel about bridges. I came up as a songwriter in Nashville where structure is a huge part of how you effectively tell a story, right? You go verse, chorus, second verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, maybe you repeat that first verse if you wanna pull at some heartstrings, if it makes sense. Now, that's something that I absolutely subscribe to, that idea that it's, you know, structure is important, but I think that when you write enough songs, and at least in my case, the intuitive part of your songwriting brain can kind of create a new structure that's not as classically what you've been taught. Like, Jack Antonoff is a collaborator of mine and one of my best friends. We established this thing that we love to do, and we call it the rant bridge. I could point to examples like Out of the Woods, Is It Over Now, Cruel Summer, and oftentimes we love these rant bridges where it's basically like stream of consciousness, endless pouring out of emotion, intrusive thoughts, like blended with metaphor, with discussion, with shouting. Like, you want this rant bridge to feel the most intense of what that feeling is that you're trying to establish over the course of the song. And you want it to kind of be a crescendo. We usually love those so much that we then bring them back. So we'll go, you know, verse, chorus, rant bridge, sometimes like a little post-coda to that rant bridge, last chorus, bring the rant bridge back, maybe with the chorus chords underneath it.
Man, that's crazy.
The Mirror Ball
she
bridge,
is so
this was Jack sending me a track during COVID.
creative.
And me immediately knowing that it needed to be about how I felt as a performer and an entertainer within this moment when entertainment and art has effectively shut down. I'm still gonna stand on this tightrope. I'm still up on the trapeze. I'm still gonna try to do tricks for you. But at the same time, you know, being a person in the public eye, I've really begun to realize that you are a mirror. Like, you are a mirror for your fans, for the media, for people on the internet, for just random, just people who don't even really care about your music, but they know who you are. however they feel about themselves and their life will be projected onto how they perceive you.
Spinning in my highest heels, love, shining just for you.
A public person who
The Long Pond Studio Sessions, if you have not seen that, go check it out. It is amazing. I reacted to it. It's on my Patreon account. It is just amazing. It really is. It is awesome.
makes art is a mirror ball. And that's part of why I've been able to keep my wits about me through all this, because I know that. And I'm really kind of aware of that dynamic, but I'm still endlessly fascinated by people, by the human experience, by why people are the way they are, by the ways that they feel emotion. I think that's what keeps us connected, even though, you know, you can make these kind of like shockingly vulnerable confessions within a song by being like, I've never been a natural, all I do is try. And you say that at first, and I remember writing that and being like, oh my God, this feels like, do you want to say this? And I'm like, actually, I feel like a lot of people feel that way. That always overrides my discomfort with if a line feels too true, because I don't really think that there's anything that's too true. The whole thing with All Too Well was that this was a very emotional rant that I did in like a sound check. We were rehearsing for the Speak Now tour. I was very sad in a way that, you know, you're like 21 years old and you're just like excruciatingly, just like you are. Sadness is you, you are sadness. In a break, I just started playing the same 4 chords over and over again. It's basically the same 4 chords over and over again for the whole song. And it just became this thing where I just started rambling, and this thing went on for a really, really long time. It was like more than 10 minutes that this rambling rant
Really?
went on, and it wasn't cohesive and it wasn't really that structured, but it felt afterward like, I think my mom or somebody went up to the sound guy and was like, did you by any chance record any of that? And he was like, yeah, I did. And I would have walked away from it if he didn't have a recording of it. So
Thank you, Mom and Sound Guy. That is...
I think my mom or somebody went up to the sound guy and was like, did you by any chance record any of that? And he was like, yeah, I did. And I would have walked away from it if he didn't have a recording of it. So I went back and listened to it, and I was like, oh, here's this 10-minute, like, basically catharsis of intense emotion. Like, there are some really angry, scathing parts that I was like, kind of gonna have to make this into a song that's a little bit more palatable, because I already felt so, like, raw putting that song out as detailed as it was. So then it goes out into the world. It didn't make a lot of noise, that song, for the first 6 months to a year, but then the fans just did a thing that they've done a few times where this song just keeps bubbling up. They did this with Cruel Summer too, where they're just like, no, we like it. We don't care if a label wants to put it out. We love this one. So I ended up playing it on the Grammys. I made the mistake of kind of explaining how the song came to be in an interview. It ended up being a really fortuitous mistake that turned into being like, oh, I'm so glad that happened. But for years, the fans were like, give us the 10-minute version, give us the 10-minute version. And I was like going back through diaries and finding like little fragments of it. And I didn't have the like old thing anymore. So I was looking through safes, trying to find the CD, but I had to go back and piece together lyrics and stuff. But that was the most extensive restoration process I've ever done on a song.
And that's what's really cool. She didn't just make stuff up. She actually went back and she found this, she found that, and she pieced it together. And, you know, a lot of artists would have just made something up. They'd have been like, okay, we'll just write this. But it's like with Taylor, with her songs, it's like, it has to be truth. You know, it has to be, you know, her truth. And it's just simply amazing what she does.
I don't think I'll ever experience anything like that again. There are so many different ways that a song begins in my world. I'll take an example like the song Elizabeth Taylor. I'm riding in the car with Travis. I go on and explaining to Travis like why I love Elizabeth Taylor so much. She fought for artists' rights. She was exploited in so many ways, and yet she kept her humanity, she kept her humor, she kept her passion for life. And I'm just going on and on. I'm like, her eyes were violet. Some people said they were blue, some people said they were violet. I think they were violet. And we arrive, we get home, he gets out of the car and I'm just in my head, I'm like, this intrusive melody of like, I'd cry my eyes violet, Elizabeth Taylor. And I'm just like scrambling.
That's like, that's insane. Like, is that what happened? She got out of the car and that just like came to her. Like, how does that happen? Like, I don't understand how her mind works so intricately and just can put that together. It's not understandable. It really isn't for me. I'm in awe of Taylor Swift. You know, I really am. I am like taken back. She shocks me a lot of times when she explains these things. And I'm just like, how does that happen? My mind does not work that way.
To open my record like app on my phone. But that's like one of those spontaneous places where it floats down like a cloud in front of you and all you have to do is grab it. And the song transpires from there. It comes as if from nowhere. That's a really fun way that songs come about. That's the way it happens most of the time. Another way that a song could happen is that a producer that I love to work with, like Aaron Dessner or Jack Antonoff, could make an instrumental, send it to me, and immediately I'll write what's called a top line on top of it. That's the vocal melody and the lyrics. Another way of writing songs is that you're in the room with your collaborator and one of you starts playing something, like for example, like Jack starts playing this piano part and it turns into this song called New Year's Day. That piano part was just like enough to springboard the entire song.
There's glitter on the floor after the party.
Writing sessions is a way that I love to write because you're all in the room, everyone's bringing ideas, everyone's chiming in. I always apply the rule, may the best idea win. I don't care if it came from you, or me. If it's better, that's what goes in the song. And I do kind of like it when people challenge me on something because I never want to be in the room with creators who are afraid that if they have a better idea, like they can't argue with me because it must be my idea that makes it through. I'm never gonna grow that way. Well, I think that, you know, the 2010s was a time for women in the entertainment industry that like, we need, like, we'll talk about it later. Like, we're all still limping away from that. And I think that conversations are much more healthy now around, there's a difference between art and like going and ranting on an Instagram live. Like there's a difference. This is a song, this takes craft, this takes skill, this takes expertise. But I also am really excited that, like, I'm a massive Somber fan of his songwriting and his lyrics are so intensely confessional. I don't like want another man's child to have the eyes of the girl I can't forget. Are you kidding me? Having a male artist say stuff like that is really good for the cause of women to be able to say stuff. If there's any way we can make confessional songwriting a little bit more of something that isn't like, people take that as sort of like you were being messy or whatever, you have to be fair to everyone then. Are rap beefs messy or are they confessional? Like, we've gotta just like, let's make it a music conversation rather than just like ganging up on the female artists. And I think the more male artists that are messy or emotionally complex or confessional or upset, the happier I am. I can only speak to me, but as I've grown up, the intensity of the sort of, no pun intended, message in a bottle nature of my songwriting has shifted and changed into something else. It used to be like, I can't tell a person how I feel, so I'll write it in this song. And that was really important for me at the time that it was important for me. It's also, you know, important when you're in your early 20s and there's someone you shouldn't talk to and you don't want to call them because they're bad for you and it's toxic, so you write it in the song and that's where it lives, like almost as a method of like self-control or self-preservation or something. But for the Folklore album and everything like that, it wasn't as a response to having a public life and the intrusions that come with that. It was really more of just wanting to challenge myself as a writer. I really have always just thought it would be so amazing to write books. And it's so exciting to have the challenge of, could I get enough plot points in a 3.5-minute song to where people felt like they read something after they heard it, or just take 100%. You back to that bedtime story, kind of tell me a story. I want to be able to put my own image on these characters. And It was really amazing when it opened up my world. I don't think my songwriting has ever been the same after Folklore. I have always had a little bit of that sort of character play in my songwriting since. And I hope it never goes anywhere because it's really fun.
You heard the rumors from Inez. You can't believe a word she says most times. This time it was true.
I kind of like being a narrator that's not the person I relate to. So the narrator in Clara Bow is either a studio, like a Hollywood studio person or a label executive who's sitting in my mind behind a desk and meeting with a brand new starlet who's just come to town. The exec says, "You look like Clara Bow in this light. It's remarkable. You're so special, you're amazing, we're gonna make you just like her." In my mind, that girl was Stevie Nicks, right? So Stevie Nicks sits down, they tell her she looks like Clara Bow, she's got those big moon eyes, and we're gonna make you just like her. Don't worry, we're gonna put you through this machine and you'll be a god. The second verse says, "You look like Stevie Nicks in this light, the hair and lips." So in my mind, that was me that sat down opposite that desk, right? I sit down at a record label and they're like, "You look like Stevie Nicks, we'll make you the next Stevie Nicks." And basically, you learn that like you're in this machine and they're trying to make you into a woman that they just idealized and then discarded. Like the entertainment industry love bombs women, right? We love you. We don't know who you are. Why are you even here?
Yeah.
And so in the last verse,
And then get the
in
next
my
one.
mind, it's a new artist that sits down across from a record label desk and they say, "You look like Taylor Swift. In this light, we're loving it. You've got edge she never did. The future's bright, dazzling." And because that's also another thing that you get when you're a female in the music or the entertainment industry, movies, whatever. It's like, "Oh, you're like this person that we like." They name a big name and they're like, "Oh, but you're gonna be so much better. It's gonna be so no, it's gonna be cooler. You're so much better." Like to offset the comparison. On Red, there was a song that I wrote alone in a hotel room.
And that's what another thing I love about Taylor Swift is how honest and raw she is. She says how she feels, she says what she wants to say. And, you know, she is so strong and has so much conviction that she's going to say what she wants to say and she's going to stand behind it. And you can't get upset at her for that.
When I was 22 years old, called Nothing New, where it sounds ridiculous, but at 22 years old, I felt completely washed up. I felt like maybe the only thing that made me special was that I was this like teen phenom, whatever I was looked at as. So I wrote this song and it includes lines like, you know, how can a person know everything at 18 and nothing at 22? Because when I was 18, I had the Fearless album come out and I had my first international #1s and everybody was like, "Oh, this writing, it's so true, it's so honest. She feels like she deserves to be here." And then there was this big upheaval of, "No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't. She sucks, actually." And it was like, it really turned the tables on my perception of like love can be so quickly handed to you and then taken away. And it's this kind of strange thing with fame. And that was the first time I ever grappled with that. Somebody was like, "Oh, you're 22 years old and you're saying like, are you tired of me? If you're not yet, are you going to get tired of me?" Because it's usually something that you would sing about later in life, but the entertainment industry, I'll tell you, there's 10 years for every year you're in it, but it's fun. Songwriting is something that it's a very intimate, tiny little thing for me. I have a lot of things I like to do. I like to bake, I like to make art, I like to paint, I like to sew, I like to write songs. And I try to keep it as like dear to me as those other things I just named. I have to know that like there's certain things that we have as a tradition between me and my fans. They love for an emotional song to be track 5. There's like special things like that, but at the same time, there's sort of so many of them now, which is great, but there's corners of my fan base who are gonna take things to a really extreme place. There's nothing I can do about that. There's people who are gonna try to like do detective work, figure out the details. Who is that about? What is this? When it gets a little bit weird for me is when people act like it's sort of like a paternity test. Like, this song's about that person, because I'm like, that dude didn't write the song I did. But that's part of it. You have to hold tight to your perception of your art and your relationship with it, and then you just kind of have to like, there it goes. Hope you like it. If you don't now, hope you do in 5 years. And if you never do, then I was doing it for me anyway. Yeah, criticism has been a huge fuel for me. It's been a huge jumping off point, like a creative writing prompt or something. There are so many songs in my career that would not exist, like Blank Space would not exist if I hadn't had people being like, here's a slideshow of all her boyfriends. Like, and then Antihero is a song that I'm so proud of still. Like, that
Amazing
song doesn't
song.
exist if I don't get criticized for every aspect of my personality that people, you know, have a problem with or whatever.
Did you hear my covert narcissism, like disguises altruism?
My favorite thing when I sit down with new artists or songwriters is I'm like, why are you reading your comments? Like, that's too much of it. Like, you're inundating yourself with too much criticism that doesn't really have a focus. But I think a little bit of it, you gotta just be like, this is part of it. Like, don't make this make you stop writing or make you edit yourself or whatever. If it's an interesting point to you to kind of respond to, then that's a gift for you to be able to write something. Maybe you wouldn't have written something that day. But don't don't go to the notes app and post it. Like, write about it. Make art about this. Don't respond to like trolls in your comments. That's not what we want from you. We want your art.
Man, that was an awesome interview. It really was. That was amazing. That was simply amazing. I love, like I said, I love watching Taylor Swift do interviews. It's just because she's so real. She's so honest. She's Taylor Swift, you know, and she doesn't hold back. She tells you exactly the way she wants to tell you, how she feels, who she is. And it's just so amazing that she does that. And I thoroughly enjoy watching her because she is an artist. She's a genius artist. She's a genius creator. She is a genius in every aspect as far as I'm concerned. And it's like for her, as I see her, is she's not necessarily a perfectionist, but she wants to be the best she can be, you know, at everything she does, you know, and she won't stop until she feels like she's the best she can be. And that's what's so amazing because, you know, the stories she writes, the stories that she brings us into, her life that she brings us into, those stories are just so vivid and so amazing. And we get to almost experience that with her because we could have experienced that same emotion kind of the same or in a little bit different way, but you know, you still experience that emotion. So it's almost like you're tied together with Taylor in that very moment, in that song or in that video. You're like, man, I felt this way before, or I remember this in my life back at this time, you know. And that's what's really cool is that you can relate to someone as big as Taylor Swift. And that is so amazing and such a feeling that you have inside that's why I think as a Taylor Swift fan, you keep coming back because you want to have that relatability. That's just me. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. I think this was the best interview I've seen so far. Maybe because it was like 30 minutes long, so that was really cool. I could watch another 30 minutes of this. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like that video, hit the like button. Not a part of J2R family, hit the subscribe button. If you want to see early Taylor Swift content, or if you want to see more Taylor Swift content, go to my Patreon account down below. And if you want to see my other reactions to Taylor Swift, go check those out.